The power and the prestige and the authority of Peter, the Pope, has been diminished to nothing, to nothing. All right, it is November 1964, and there's going to be a big vote the following day in the Council. And that vote is to state that the bishops of the Church share the same jurisdiction and authority as the Pope over the universal Church as well as over their particular dioceses. That's the vote. And it's an important vote. An aide to the Pope, who now is a bishop, Bishop McGee, not then a bishop, but working at the council, went down to a conference room that had been used by the periti, the theologians, because he had left either his breviary or a comb or something down there. He wanted to pick it up again. And he scuffed on the ground, he scuffed 2 or 3 sheets of paper. And he picked them up just out of interest, and he found that they were in the handwriting of a very well-known peritus, theologian, a German, an Austrian actually, and that they outlined the strategy by which the bishops were going to take the jurisdiction of the Pope over for themselves in virtue of this vote. So he dashed up to Paul VI. It was late at night. Paul VI, typically, Hamlet, said, well, I can't stop the vote now, and the vote is majority for this strange doctrine they have, but I'll write a special note, a nota explicativa, an explanatory note. Now the vote took place, and the vote, the document was approved, and the document states that the bishops share in the universal jurisdiction and power of the Pope over the Church Universal as well as over their dioceses. And that puts the bishops on a par with the Pope.
Is this what is sometimes referred to as the principle of collegiality?
That's right, that's right, that's right.
And does this principle have any precedent in church history?
None, none. There is no college of bishops in the church tradition. There's a college of cardinals, and it is not even apostolic, but there's that tradition. There's no college of bishops. The relationship of bishops to the Pope is one-on-one, individual to individual. But this was introduced deliberately because if the Pope becomes just a bishop merely, and he whatever power he has is shared by everybody else, you can see what happens. Well, we know what happened, Bernard, because since then the big change has taken place in the Church. You know, before Vatican Council, you could, if you wanted to have an image of the Church, it was this: a central hub with pipes going out to the various provinces of the Church throughout the world, north, south, east, and west. And those pipes conveyed instruction and admonition and advice, and they brought to Rome zeal and obedience and acquiescence and questions and queries, etc. But that was the center. There was only one hub, and Rome was the center. Now every diocese is a hub all by itself. And the bishops, it's easier for the Pope to remove a parish priest than it is to remove a bishop nowadays, because the bishop is now part of, they founded then regional and national conferences of bishops. And the National Conference of Catholic Bishops in the United States, the NCCB, and it has a political arm called the USCC, the United States Catholic Conference. They're totally independent of the Pope, and they make their own laws. They decided to have communion in the hand. They decided to have altar girls. They've decided to have ordained female deaconesses, to have deaconesses ordained, and they're going to have them too, whether we like it or not, and you're going to have them in Canada. So the bishops have seized the reins. They now say that they have the same power as the Pope over the Church Universal. So this document was passed. Paul VI wrote this explanatory note and said this must be added to the document. It's never added to the main text of the document. It's put at the back, and nobody ever refers to it ever again. Nobody ever refers to the nota explicativa. And the result is that everybody says, well, the Vatican Council too, it decided the bishops were the equal of the Pope, and they can decide for the Universal Church and make decisions. They haven't got to ask the Pope about things any longer, and indeed they don't.
Then in this situation, you have something similar, let's say, to the Church of England, where the Archbishop of Canterbury is only the first among equals, and he has no real authority outside his own diocese.
None, and he hasn't got any. Or like, for instance, the Archbishop of Constantinople, the Patriarch of Constantinople, the same thing. And it's reducing, it's a Protestant idea. By the way, It was a heresy. It was called Gallicanism, and it was condemned more than once, and it was condemned at the Vatican Council, First Vatican Council. But they got it through this time. And the difficulty is that now that is the mode today, and the bishops know they're independent, and they say the Vatican Council has made them independent. Yes, they venerate the Pope because that's the most ancient see, and it's the see of Peter, and that sort of thing. But they have lost all reverence and respect and obedience. Now that's the difficulty with the bishops today. The result is that we are now faced with the fact that every diocese is a little fiefdom in itself, and every bishop considers himself to be totally independent, and therefore his clergy do. And we see this again and again in the United States. It's rampant. Everybody, there's a priest called Father DiNardo in the Pittsburgh diocese, who's supposed to be a theologian, and he gave an interview lately in which he said that just don't listen to the Pope, just listen to the bishop. He's the man who has all the authority, and that is the belief today. And so the power and the prestige and the authority of Peter, the Pope, has been diminished to nothing, That's the main difficulty we have today with the normal Catholics in the normal diocese, that we are now at the mercy of a local bishop who has cut himself off from Rome and regards himself as equal in authority. In fact, so he can make decisions for his diocese, and if Rome says don't do it, he can cock a snook at that. He can say, no, we're going to do it anyway, and they do. That's the difficulty.